Hello viewers, welcome to the Dailies on Network Television. Today being the 15th of December 2023. Your program where we'll look at some current and news and also giving you updates with all that is happening in Nigeria and also other countries within. I'm Sarah Lashitasham. I'll be doing the program with Rachel Tansy. Good morning.
Morning, Sally.
How's preparation for weekend?
It's going on well.
All right. And to our viewers, remember you can be part of the program by joining us live on Facebook and on YouTube, and then you can also drop your views or your contribution on any of the stories we will be looking at this morning. And Rachel will take us through the first paper, which is the Daily Times newspaper.
On the Daily Times newspaper, AMCOM recovers 1.8 trillion naira debt, targets 70 billion naira profit by year end. The big story on the paper, NNPCL not sincere on subsidy dollar revenues. This is coming from the World Bank. And we kept on seeing back and forth of certain reports and statistics coming from the World Bank. And since yesterday, they have been hammering on the NNPCL. And the writer under the story, oil revenue account shows lower figure than expected earnings. And we have debt funding fiscal deficit, and we have pressure, government finances, and inherited borrowings gulf in revenue. This is coming from the minister explaining. Now reveals robust plans to raise tax revenue soon. 104 million Nigerians now poor. You can find details on page 2. Rivers power tussle, Attorney General resigns. 26 defector lawmakers defy Fubara hold plenary outside hallowed chambers. Tinubu's move to reconcile Wike Fubara has failed, coming from Rivers APC. Tinubu sacks aviation directors hours after CEO's removal. U.S. fertility doctor accused of secretly impregnating patient. Keke Okada riders oppose reintroduction of daily ticket sales in Delta State. And at the downside, NLC rejects TCN privatization, demands policy reversal. You can find details on page 5 and that of news on the Daily Times newspaper.
On the Metrics newspaper, we have NCS unveils special strategy plan to combat smuggling of nuclear materials. You can find more detail of that story inside the paper. NDDC award 189 postgraduate students scholarship. Cardoso appears before National Assembly, unveils projection for 2024. Projects slumming Nigerians' inflation rate, pressure on forex to reduce. More detail in the paper. And the big story here is still on the issue of rivers of crisis. Udili Omihe Amechi to wade in after Tinubu failed to resolve crisis. Fubara wars continues as 3 cabinet members resign. Drama as Fubara signed budget a day after presenting it to the 4 assembly members. APC waits in may begin impeachment process against Fubara. You can find more detail of that on page 2. Kano government agrees to pay demolished shops owners 3 billion naira compensation. NLC warned the federal government against accepting World Bank 750 naira per litre fuel proposal. Tinubu continues changes in aviation industry. Sack all directors of Civil Aviation Agency. You can find more on page 5. How we are transforming Nigeria with support of National Assembly. This is coming from the President Tinubu. Nnamdi Kanu to no fate today as Supreme Court delivers the judgment. Remember, Ohaneze, IPOB are saying that he should be released. So today we'll finally get to know his fate after the court judgment. Here we have the picture story for He Is a Jolly Good Fellow, where we're having the President Bola Tinubu also together with the Senate President yesterday at the Transcorp Hilton Hotel, Abuja, still in celebration of his 61st birthday of the Senate President. And that's all on the Metrics newspaper.
On Daily Independent, Keyamo sacks 30 aviation sector directors in one fell swoop. NAS to probe $496 million payment to Indian firm over Atape concession. You can find more details on page 4. The big story on the paper, confusion as sacked pro-Wike Rivers lawmakers hold plenary. Past 2 bills criticize Fubara over assembly demolition. Rivers State Attorney General Adongo resigns amid crisis. Fubara signs 800 billion naira 2024 budget, promises critical projects. Tinubu's peace deal has collapsed, Rivers APC chairman. You can find details on page 29. Lack of comprehensive data affecting Nigeria's growth. A statement from President Tinubu says having a Pabio Abbas as partners will enable him succeed. And on Edo Guba, I will support whoever PDP supports. A statement coming from Obaseki denies having issues with his deputy. Perform or be sacked. Power Minister threatens heads of parastatals. You can find details on page 7. Committee of VCs praise removal of universities from IPPIS. Still on the paper, CBN projects decline in oil revenue, inflation rate in 2024. Federal government launches national workplace policy on HIV and AIDS. You can find details on page 2 for those affected, and that's all the news on Daily Independent.
On the Voice of Liberty, still on the issue of rivers, where we are seeing that the State Attorney General have resigned, you can find detail in the paper. Maritime security in Nigeria, 7 countries in Gulf of Guinea facing piracy challenges. More detail in the paper. It's time Nigeria moved from reforms to results coming from the World Bank. We are transforming Nigeria with the support of the National Assembly coming from the President. President Bola Tinubu said effort of his administration to transform Nigeria's economy are yielding results with the support of the National Assembly led by Senate President Godswill Akpabio and the House of Reps Speaker Abbas. You can find detail in the paper. Jumia Food closes shop in Nigeria, cite profitability concerns. More detail of that can be found in the paper. CBN suspend application of new intervention loans, and ShopRite shut down operation in Kano gives reason. Well, we're seeing Jumia have stopped food, and here we're seeing ShopRite have shut down their operation in Kano State. Rachel, I don't know what this is signaling. We're having quite a number of bodies or quite a number of companies shutting down. And we're seeing Jumia is complaining that the reason why they have to do that is because of profit. And we saw multinational companies that are leaving Nigeria because of still the issue of conflict amid many other, or sorry, not conflict rather, because of profit rather.
Yes.
And then quite a number of things that we're going to look at it. I just don't know what the government is planning to do, because I'm imagining that ShopRite is no longer in Kano. So imagine we don't have ShopRite in Kano, and then they decide to maybe shut down in Lagos, or maybe decide to shut down in Abuja again. Rachel, you know what that means, because a lot of people depend on such shops to be able to, shop for everything you want once and for all without necessarily have to go. So we do not know more reasons about it, but we hope that the government will look into making sure that, we don't lose all these companies, because they are complaining about profit left, right, and center. There's no power. Talking about bad roads amid many other things. So our fingers are crossed, and we just look what the government would do concerning all of this.
I mean, every time I see businesses shutting down, Sele, I'm more concerned personally when it comes to the unemployment rate, because ShopRite is big, and it has branches in major cities in Nigeria where there is a lot of revenue to be generated, where they are in places that they know that there will be the market, and Kano is big. So imagine if ShopRite is shutting down in a place like Kano that you should know, even for patronage, they should still be there. But yet the economic environment is still not suitable for them. Then it is troublesome. I mean, it is worrisome on a lot of levels, because there are people who are employed. ShopRite is big. If you've ever visited anyone, be it in Abuja or Lagos, you know that it is big, and they have other branches, and we are looking at Nigerians losing their job. Hundreds of Nigerians losing their job, and it is concerning. And then for me, the second part is that if ShopRite is closing, most medium-scale businesses are closing down. That's what it means. That is, the 4 million we're talking about is almost 5 million now, because if a bigger business is closing, talk more about the smaller ones. And then for the small ones, if we're to come down, imagine, if I am a medium-scale business owner and I have to close down, it means I am unemployed. I no longer have an income coming in, I am joining together with my employee to be at the labor market where I am also in need of employment and all of that. So we are looking at even the people that are able to reduce to the unemployment rate are also becoming unemployed. And then you wonder, where is the way forward? It's all about the economic environment. And I just hope that the federal government of Nigeria are working day and night tirelessly to see that they are creating an environment that will help businesses thrive regardless of how small they are.
No wonder we're seeing NLC is actually telling the government not to take what the World Bank is actually saying. Remember yesterday they said selling of petrol at 750 naira per liter, and then they are still probing the issue of the NNPCL and all of that. Imagine if you're buying petrol right now at 750 naira per liter. We're already fighting the government as it is presently. Petrol is over 600.
670.
It's over 600 in other places. So
Yes.
you could imagine what it would mean for businesses, just like we rightly said, the number of unemployment is increasing and all of that. So, and we're seeing that Nigeria is a place whereby most people, or what is keeping the country moving, are mostly private owners.
Yes.
Are mostly private companies. They are what is keeping Nigeria, because we've said this. I mean, the government is supposed to be the number there, they're supposed to be the ones employing higher number of Nigerians, but we're seeing that the private companies that are trying to help, they're shutting down because things are not really going as they envision it. Well, we hope to see better things coming from the government. And the last story on the Voice of Liberty say NNPCL not transparent on subsidy dollar revenue coming from the World Bank. You can find more detail of that story in the paper. And that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
On First News newspaper, Kano government to pay demolished shop owners 3 billion naira. In Rivers State, 4 commissioners dumped Fubara in 24 hours as pro-Wike officials quit government in droves. Attorney General orders throw in the towel. Governor signs 2024 budget 24 hours after presenting bill to 5 assembly members. We are considering impeachment proceeding against Fubara, says APC. SAC Speaker Anwar Hule, defector lawmakers sit despite court order. Acting Governor Ayedatiwa addresses Ondo people. Lack of data affecting Nigeria's growth coming from President Tinubu. Nigeria among developing countries that service debt with $443.5 billion. This is coming from World Bank. Messi nominated for FIFA Best Player Awards. 26th MOBO Awards, Davido, Burna Boy, Wizkid order shortlisted. U.S. fertility doctor accused of secretly impregnating a patient. Tinubu's move to end Wike Fubara rift has collapsed, coming from APC. And in Edo concerning the Guba, I will support whoever emerges as PDP candidate, a statement coming from Obaseki. Police recovers vehicles, motorcycles used for Ekiti Bank robbery. I believe that this is a right step. If they're able to get these vehicles, then it means they are also on their way to catch the people that were involved in this robbery. And that's all news on First News newspaper.
On New Telegraph newspaper, this is the report that says Nigeria received largest new financing from the World Bank in 2022. You can start reading on the front page and continue on page 3 of the New Telegraph newspaper. Lack of data impending government decision in Nigeria. And also we're seeing funding concerns. Senate suspend Niger Delta Ministry budget defense. You can find more detail of that story on page 2. Ayedatiwa assumes office as the acting governor of Ondo State. Skill, not varsity degrees alone, would determine job provision. This is coming from Oloyade. You can find detail of that story on page 5. And on aviation shake-up, federal government fires FAN, NCAA, NIMET, NIMA, NSIB directors. More detail can be found on page 3. Coming from the CBN, inflation, exchange rate will decline in 2024. Declares 18.804 billion naira trade balance in the third quarter. Project less revenue from oil. And we're seeing here that Rivers Attorney General, 4 other commissioners resign. And also we're still seeing COP28, federal government, UNDP, EU push for celebrated climate action plan through the NNEF. You can find that story on page 5. Don't die on the job. Lagos CG tell judges, retire if you're no longer in good health, regardless of your age. This you can find on page 4. Tinubu, having National Assembly on my side enough for me to succeed. You can find that on page 3 and on page 26. And we have a study that says eating meals early will lower cardiovascular risks. You can find more detail of that on page 28. And that's all the New Telegraph newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, the big story, fuel price reject World Bank 750 naira per litre proposal. NLC warns federal government. Labour says fresh price hike will lead to anarchy. Federal government insists subsidy has been removed. Tinubu's government fears unrest subsidizing fuel secretly. Marketers allege project 1,000 naira to a litre. You can find all the details on page 2. Customs generates 70% revenue from Lagos, says Controller General. 32 states budget 14 trillion naira for roads. Kidnappers return to Lagos and abduct 2. National Assembly probes $4.96 million at Tape iron ore. And that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
Alright, let's take a look at the Daily Sun newspaper, starting with the big story on 2024. INEC protests 40 billion naira allocation, demands 89 billion naira, declares allocation inadequate. You can find more detail of that story. And a lot of people will have questioned if INEC is protesting 40 billion naira allocation, demanding 89 billion naira. We're yet to have auditing of what they actually used the money that was given to them for 2023 election. I mean, what would they be doing in 2024? I don't think we have so many elections in 2024, apart from Edo State and rest. So if you're talking about maintenance, I mean, INEC needs to look inwardly. A lot of things, Nigerians are already mad at them for not doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So coming here to say that, I mean, it seems as if every ministry and every agency, Rachel, the money given to them is not enough. Because that is what we've been seeing ever since the president presented the budget. Every ministry is coming out, every agency is speaking out that the money being allocated to them is not enough. So I do not know what the National Assembly is intending to do, because already the president said with the National Assembly on his side, he'll be able to take Nigeria to the higher level. But then, how can we do that when we're seeing that, I mean, everybody's coming out to complain one thing or the other. So, well, if they are protesting and saying that the education is inadequate, we'll just keep our fingers crossed and see what the National Assembly thinks about this protest. If they think that INEC needs more money or more funding to be able to keep the body working and moving adequately.
This is definitely not out of sentiment, but I don't think that at this point INEC needs more funding. You've already had money given to you for 2023 election. Let's not forget, it's different from the allocation they get. There is a separate budget that comes to you for election, and this election curtails even up to off-season election, because it is all captured in your expenditure for 2023. It's a budget for the whole election that will take place in the 37 states in Nigeria. Therefore, this is not out of sentiment or because INEC didn't perform well or not, but no, I mean, other agencies really need more. We saw that of the judiciary yesterday. We saw how we are waiting to see if more will be given to education. We're waiting to see what will be given to poverty alleviation, because we're just looking at 500 billion thereabout, and I feel it's little if this budget is hope renewal, as the president has tagged it, and poverty alleviation. And I am seeing that for poverty alleviation precisely, it's only getting about 500 billion naira. Then I believe that other places do have the right to stand and say they need. We're looking at our health sector. Our doctors are leaving, and the current budget doesn't say keep them home. Our current budget is saying keep going, keep chapping. And therefore, I believe that, I mean, INEC shouldn't be one of those demanding for more, because if we're to follow the budget, everybody will. But I just hope that the government prioritizes and don't just, you know, be partial concerning who gets more or not, but let them really look into what sector is really in need of more money compared to what have been given to them at the with the present budget as it is now.
All right, we just hope that more will be done there.
Yes.
Let's look at other stories still on Daily Sun. Anxiety in the Southeast over Kanu as Supreme Court rules today. Sit-at-home victim families slam the federal government. The Southeast governors over alleged abandonment. You can find detail on page 4. War without end in Rivers defected lawmakers dare Governor Fubara hold sitting in Port Harcourt. Attorney General and 4 others resign. APC admits collapse of Tinubu's intervention. Governor signs the 2024 budget. All of these can be found on page 27. Amidst inflation, CBN predicts less revenue from oil in 2024. So if we're having less revenue from oil, what is the next place we should look into to get more revenue? You can look that up on page 22. FIFA places 11 Nigeria referees, 11 assistants on 2024 international list. For sport lovers, you can look that up on page 29. Ayedatiwa assumes office as Ondo acting governor, says drama around Akeredolu's health avoidable. You can find more detail on page 26. Borno Senate seeks justice dragged to the NJC over alleged misconduct. Detail found on page 4. And we're still seeing shake-up in aviation as federal government sack FAN, NAMA, MDs and directors. Detail found on page 23. We have some picture stories on the front page. Do well to grab the paper in more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On the Nation newspaper, retirees get 1.6 trillion naira on the contributory pension scheme. Armed for Peace, Aiyedatiwa declares after resumption. As saying gets staff of office as Shaun's coronation begins. Infrastructure tops Kwara's 296.4 billion naira 2024 estimates. Coming from Tinubu, we are working with lawmakers to fix economy. Slim allocation threatens Ondo governorship polls and others, says INEC. Electoral agency seeks raise of vote to 89 billion naira. NDDC owing contractors 50 billion naira, minister tells lawmakers. Directors of aviation agencies sacked. First Lady is NCW's grand patron. You can find details of both stories inside the paper. The big story on the paper, crisis. 6 commissioners resign from Fubara's government. 27 lawmakers sit as assembly complex. Governor signs 800 billion naira budget passed by 4 lawmakers. Details can be found on the front page and inside the paper on page 5. Coming from Alake, local international investors coming to us in droves. You can find details on page 7. We have a picture story showing the 27 lawmakers at the assembly complex in Rivers State passing their own vote and having their own plenary session. And that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
Let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper, where we have, as Fubara signed budget, 5 commissioners resign. Pro-Wiki lawmakers pass the bills. You can find more detail of that story inside the paper. And I really do not understand what is happening in Rivers, Richard. The crisis is just starting because it seems to be taking a different turn every day, a different face every day. Just when we think things are under control, another new face shows up, and then it's really, really a very ugly and sad incident happening in Rivers State. And I'm just hoping that they'll be able to put their act together, because looking at where Rivers is located, you will agree with me that this is one of the powerful states we have in Nigeria, and this is not expected to come out. I'm just hoping that if we're seeing here that APC are saying even the president is unable to resolve the conflict that is happening there, so who else is going to intervene in this issue? Are we going to just leave them to keep fighting themselves when you're expecting leaders to come up with intelligent intervention for their state? We see them acting more like kids and doing things that should not be expected. The 27, or rather the 26 lawmakers that were being defected or being stopped from the court not to hold plenary are holding it outside the court, outside the complex. And we're seeing the remaining 5 are holding theirs inside. So we're having a divided house. So how can such a house bring up decisions and expect the people of Rivers to follow as well? And these are things we begin to see, where you see there are people who are faithful to Fubara, other people are faithful to pro-wiki or whatever the other gang is, and before realizing, the entire country or the entire state will get divided. So this is one of the very, very beautiful states we have in Nigeria, and I'm hoping that the president will be able to come up. If it means you call all of them together, let them trash whatever issue they're having. If there's a personal difference, they should keep it aside and let governance run. I mean, we're already fighting with a lot of issues that are happening in other states. I mean, I was surprised, unlike Plateau State, that when you're coming in, you see Christmas everywhere. But I mean, there's no Christmas in Plateau State anyway. The decorations are just
scanty,
Rachel. So, I mean, Nigerians just need to be happy. I mean, there's a lot of hardship happening already, and River State should not be one of the things that we should sit and be thinking on how to come up and resolve this issue. So I'm just hoping that something tangible, honestly, I'm hoping that they should be able to trash their differences so that governance will run eventually. I mean, he has signed the budget already right now. Attorney General have resigned. So what else is left? So I'm just hoping better measures will be taken to actually resolve this crisis.
Sele, for the sake of governance, I do hope that Fubara succeeds in whatever he's doing in River State. Not because of party, because, I mean, it's sad that politics is the order of the day. Because what I'm seeing is APC trying to take a state through defection of lawmakers. And the fact that we already have a constitution that has gaps and allows such excesses to keep taking place, it's really a sad one. And then you can't just imagine. But I'm just looking forward to where the governor sits back and comes up with strategies, unexpected ones, the ones that can take back the state to the order that is supposed to be. Because whether we like it or not, the people of River State went out, voted, and this man came out as the people's choice and the winner. By the time we're having 72 lawmakers who have defected to another party because of the godfatherism, godson issue, the rift, and now two sides, this person for wiki, that person loyal to the current governor, it already says how messed up we are as citizens of this country, that you would sit down as a River State lawmaker and allow such to happen in your state, and yet you call yourself patriotic. But we will allow such nonsense to happen because to some extent we are not thinking deep. We are not. Are you for Rivers or are you for APC? What party did you get your power in? What party did you get elected in? Whatever is the problem, you're supposed to sit down in that party, see that the issue is being solved so that your state can grow, so that it can be better, so that by now as lawmakers, allocations are already coming to you and you're already working and you're putting things in place. But we keep seeing selfish leaders. We keep seeing thoughtless leaders, Sele, with no apologies, I have to say so, because this shouldn't even happen in the first place. Whatever is the problem, you stay in that party and fix it, because problem is everywhere. Problem is everywhere. There's no place that is problem-free. But what makes growth and development and people to thrive is that they sit down and then they fix that issue and they move ahead, because in the end, it's all about Rivers. It's not about you. It's not about party. Party is more like the template we put for ascending into an office. But why are you in that office? Is for your state. And when we begin to miss that, as we just keep seeing a brood of selfish leaders in the country who are very minded about themselves and not about the people, because you should have been in the position where things should begin to start happening. Just as you said, it might not be in the heart of Nigeria, but Rivers is the heart of Nigeria, and therefore it should be one of those states that should be very organized, coordinated, and certain things shouldn't be heard of, or we shouldn't be seeing this rift left, right, center. And you as lawmakers should be in the position to make sure that certain things don't even happen in the first place. This loyalist game should be to the state whatsoever, and not to an individual. But then we keep seeing this kind of things playing, and I just keep saying that the governor, I hope for the sake of governance, should be able to come up with something that will bring everything to order in the state and for things to go on as they should, because I mean, we shouldn't be seeing this kind of things, and it's disappointing on so many levels.
When we're supposed to be looking at more recruiting stories, it seems to be taking an entire paper. You know what, yes, Rachel, just like you said, I mean, this is where I'm expecting from every ward level. you need to call back your lawmakers and
course.
have a conversation with them. If really we have stakeholders at the what level, you need to call these lawmakers back home and hear what really is happening. Why are people behaving this way? Because we are supposed to be there to represent us from whatever local government you're coming from.
Yeah.
But then for you to go there and actually behave the way you're behaving, believe you me, the people do not know their power, just like you said. If you know your power, by now, you should call your lawmakers to come back. If you're not ready to act, well, then please come back. We want to conduct a new election.
Yes.
Because the people need to wake up and let them know that we pay you. So you need to act the way we want you to act. You don't
yes,
act the way you feel like acting. Just like we said, it's about the interests of the state, not the interests of an individual. Wike is concentrating if really he is behind it. He's supposed to be concentrating as the Minister of FCT, not us having lawmakers here in Rivers State trying to show loyalty to somebody else.
Minister.
I mean, it doesn't make sense.
Yes.
Still on the Guardian newspaper, we're having Restoring the Dignity and Functions of the Police. It's an editorial you can find on page 12 of the Guardian newspaper. We have also Tragedy as Overhead Water Tank Collapses, Killed 9-day-old Baby and Mother in Ondo. This is really a sad story. You can find more detail in the paper. Nigerians free to video, photograph officers on duty. This is coming from the police. Well, I hope that no police will slap any civilian when you try to actually do that, because we've had issues like that where, especially when we have police brutality going on, and you decide to pick your phone to actually, and then you are being manhandled and all of that. So if the police are telling the Nigerians are free to do that, I hope that they have told all their officers that do not misbehave, because we have given this in the citizens the go ahead. When you misbehave, we have. So we just hope that they know that.
I mean, Sally, I'm laughing because the Nigerian police have turned out, not on the negative side, but to be one of the agency that says the opposite.
And does the opposite.
Exactly, and says one thing and
do the other.
Yes, the opposite of it. Growing up, we know police is your friend. But, I mean, police haven't been our friend in Nigeria. Let's be honest. They haven't been. Everybody has one bad encounter with them or the other, and until their attention was drawn to it, and we can talk about the police brutality, I don't think your friend should do that to you. When we look at the things that Nigerians have gone through in the hands of police, and here we are seeing them saying Nigerians free to video and photograph police, and trust me, a brutality will come out of this incident. I mean, we'll just wait for the papers and we will definitely see things like that flying on social media even before now, because it's one thing for them to say and it's another thing for them to act. That has just been the way our Nigerian police have been. But we just hope that they are better people, because we are always trusting a better Nigeria. We are not here wanting things to be bad. So we're just hoping that truly tomorrow, if I take out my phone, I won't be, nobody will harass me. Because
I'm taking out my phone, it should be that, I mean, I want to commend the police officer for doing his job.
Exactly.
Because we've had those ones as well. It's just that the bad ones are always out there more than the good acts of the police. So I just hope that we'll see better coming from our police. So. Federal government fall to World Bank insists fuel subsidy is gone. You can find more detail on page 3. Anxiety in Southeast as the Supreme Court rules on Nnamdi Kanu today. You can find more detail on page 3. And we have the issue on cosmetic surgery. When search of perfect sealant led to undesirable outcome, you can actually see some of the locations and the people, the numbers. So this is really a big story for the paper. You can find that on page 4 and 5. And that's all on the Guardian newspaper. But before we move further with other paper analysis, Rachel, I would love for us to take a break at this moment. Quite a lot of stories on the paper. We would love to hear your own views on any of the story that is of interest to you. So when we're back, we'll open the phone lines. Please stay tuned with us.
Democracy is the theory that common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. Join me every Friday, 7 p.m. on National Talk for analysis as well as in-depth perspective on issues as they unfold in and around Nigeria, as well as an opportunity to add your voice.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, it's still the Dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories on the paper. NLC is saying that do not agree with what World Bank have to say about the fuel subsidy, and also we're seeing federal government saying that fuel subsidy is gone and gone for good. We're also seeing the issue in Rivers where we're seeing that Attorney General has resigned together with other commissioners. So it seems as if the rift going on in that state is yet to end. So we'd love to hear what your own views are concerning any of the story that is of interest to you. Remember, you can call us on the number displayed on your screen. Please do remember, turn down the volume of your TV set because we'd love to hear what you have to say about that. I still have Rachel Tansey with me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Senator.
All right, let's take a look at other papers before the calls come in.
On Nigerian Tribune, more shake-up innovation as federal government sacks directors in agencies. Still on Rivers crisis, more commissioners resign. Fubara signs 800 billion naira appropriation bill into law. G27 states adopt local government autonomy bill. You can find details on page 28. The big story, we expect less revenue from oil exports in 2024, CBN governor.
All right, we have a call. Let's take this call. Good morning.
Good morning, Sele. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you, sir. And you?
Sir.
Glory be to Jesus Christ. Merry Christmas
Thank you. Same
in
to you.
advance. I don't know the reason why Wiki, you are not a minister. Allow something you do not allow during your whole tenure. During your whole tenure, you do not allow interference of the past people, past governments. What do you want now? You know how to cut people's head, but now they want to cut your own hand, cut your own leg, remove your hip legs out of that state. You still put your hand, put your leg, put your everything. What do you want? Wiki, what do you want? Evil spirit is controlling you. God bless you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very
We believe
much,
that the minister is listening, even though we do not know if he's possessed, but he's not. We just believe things will work out well eventually in Rivers State. Please, let's go on, Rachel, with the papers.
Still on Nigerian Tribune, the writer under the big story blames illegal bunkering and divestment by IOCs. This is still coming from the CBN governor. Says inflation and exchange rate to decline. Supreme Court decides Nnamdi Kanu's fate today. National Assembly to probe $496
All right, let's take this call, Rachel. Sorry. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to add my view. I want to ask this question. Is Nigeria practicing democracy?
Sorry, I didn't get your
If we are
question.
practicing democracy in Nigeria does not work. Because in democracy, if the electorate elect you, they must command you. They must tell you what to do. We have seen democracy in America, all these parties. If the electorate, this legislature, when they will go to their constituency, their constituency will ask them, depending on this is what we need, this is what we call democracy. Okay, I want to ask again. Since Wike God, Wike will rule River State, nobody intervened. Which Wike is from Christian family. The father of Wike is a pastor. But Wike is behaving like it's controlled by other spirits. But the thing is the power that gives Wike. The federal government, the APC is giving that power. And they are punching to destroy, to make one Nigeria, to make Nigeria one party system. It's not too hard to rule Nigeria. I think the APC will consider how to develop Nigeria, not how to get other states. This is not democracy. You have a will, you have law. Plan how to make Nigeria to be like other countries, not how to make Nigeria to be one party system. It's not the way to go. What you see in River State, can River State achieve anything with all this crisis? That is no. So let's God help us. We are continuing to pray God for this because I don't see how Nigeria can do it with all these things. They said the if the house can divide, they cannot put forward. They cannot survive. But if we together now, they plan for Nigeria, for the growth of Nigeria, everything will be well. Now we are not come to normally Nigeria cannot come to now. We are PDP, we are APC. We are one Nigeria now as people don't win. Let us push Nigeria forward and this party order. May God help us and let them communicate to others. Because the wrath of God is coming. One day he will ask you, God will ask you, what have you done to put this River State problem now? If the crisis up, many people will die. And the blood will be under the head of the wicked. This is not how to do this is not how to do a contest. Thank you very much, my sister.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Rachel, you and I have talked about it, the fact that democracy did not fail in other countries.
It did not.
So why are we having a problem with the way it's being run here? I mean, questions were being asked. I remember one of the lawmakers that defected, Honorable Judge in the House, Dave Rivers, was asked if the FCT minister is in an APC party. And he said, Wike can answer for himself. Because a lot of indications, what people are saying, Wike hasn't come out clearly to tell you that he has left PDP. But then from body language, Nigerians are beginning to read something different. No wonder we're seeing some of our callers, or two of our callers that called this morning, tend to be, calling the minister to redress whatever the issue is, because you had a smooth running, so why frustrate
another administration?
And it's not fair in all angles. And I hope that if really, because these are just allegations, if really the FCT minister have anything to do with it, we just hope that he will come out and address this issue. Let Fubara run Rivers the way he feels it's best for him to run it. And let you also focus in the FCT and run it the best that you should. We shouldn't be having headlocks at every point in time. For every decision he wants to take, he's been frustrated. Okay, not only are we having our lawmakers defecting, right now we're having commissioners resigning. So he's supposed to start another new appointment of commissioners to head various places or various sectors. So we just hope that, I'm looking forward to where leaders, politicians will realize that, you know what, it's not about the party, it's just the drive. The party is just like a car, a vehicle that helps you.
It is.
But you need to focus on governance, believe in me, because with the way things are going, Rivers will no longer be realizing the money they are realizing if they continue with the way they are going. So we hope that they will redress and address sort of this issue.
Still on Nigerian Tribune, National Assembly to probe $496 million payment to Indian firm on Itape iron ore concession. Aiyedatiwa to Ondo people, let's build a shared future from a divided past. Funding still major challenge in universities, a statement coming from Vice Chancellors. You can find details on page 4. Makinde cautions traditional rulers against giving permission for mining. Shaun's coronation begins with 150 million naira empowerment. Tinubu as Minister of Petroleum illegal, coming from Falana, says President not screened by Senate. You can find details on page 4 and 29, and that's all news on Nigerian Tribune.
It's not only Falana that I've talked about it. Remember the former CBN governor Sanusi also make a statement about that issue. So we hope that he will wait to see what the president have to say about that. Well, let's take a look at the next paper, which is This Day newspaper. And This Day newspaper, Tinubu is saying, having a Pabio Abbas at my side at National Assembly, leaders enough to make me succeed. Assembly, not an empirage of executives, says the Senate President. You can find more detail of all of these on page 5. Amcor recovers 1.8 trillion naira, says it's remained profitable year on year. Fubara signs 800 billion naira budget into law. And the big story, federal government vows to award oil assets to only companies with approved capacity in future bid rounds, with the writer says era of delay of license extension, ministerial consent over, assures producers of enabling policies to attract investment, ramp up production. How Tinubu lobbed heads of state over Nigeria's OPEC quota rise. And then presidency, $13.5 billion investment expected in energy sector in 12 months. Investor uncertainty persists 2 years after P&A passage IPPG months. You can find detail of that also on page 5. And we have a picture story here, Enugu's tragedy partnership with Afrexim Bank. You can find more detail where we can see the governor of the state, Dr. Peter Mba, together with the president of Africa Export Import Bank. And that's all on this day newspaper.
On Vanguard newspaper, bank deposits surged in 2023 to 64.26 trillion naira. Patriotism will put Nigeria on right path, coming from Tinubu. World Igbo Congress urges Supreme Court to free Nnamdi Kanu unconditionally. How to reform Supreme Court, coming from Sanwo-Olu Ologba and Alani Pekun. You can find details on page 10. The big story, Rivers crisis, assembly factions flex muzzles. G27 lawmakers fight back, say we won't succumb to harassment and intimidation. We have presenting budget to 4 lawmakers presenting budget to 4 lawmakers unconstitutional, coming from Rivers APC. Crowns Wike Nigeria's Dean of Politics. Wow. Attorney General Adango, 3 others commissioners resign. Save our democracy, end crisis in Rivers. ASAF begs Tinubu. Find all the details on page 5. Ekiti bloody robbery. We've recovered 3 vehicles coming from police. COVID-19 resurgence in Benue, report a misinterpretation of World Health Organization statement, coming from NCDC. Inflation exchange rate to drop in 2024, coming from the CBN, and we are hoping for that to happen, as it would mean the economic growth for the country. You can find details on page 8. Aviation Minister sacks all directors of NAMA, NCAA, NIMED, and others. There is a column for a whale I can find on page 17. A sport column says Pesero submits 33-man provisional squad lead. I believe this is for AFCON. You can find details on page 39. Picture story showing Umba and the Afrexim Bank boss meeting in Egypt. And that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
On Friday, leadership, Amcor recovers 1.8 trillion naira, target over 70 billion naira profit. You can find on page 42. And on Tudumbiri bumping, Sambo Zauzau Emia demands investigation. And then trending, Jumia to stop food delivery service. And then on the numbers, federal government target 500,000 jobs from data protection plan. Federal government target 500,000 jobs from data protection plan. You can find both stories on page 3. The big story still, Rivers crisis takes new dimension. Justice Finance Work Commissioner, 1 other quit Fubara's cabinet. You can find detail on page 4. Also, we are having, I will make Nigeria import and export hub. This is coming from the President Tinubu. How we rescue core members in Zamfara, coming from the NYSC. You can find detail of that story. We have a picture story on the front page of the paper. Do well to grab the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On Nature News, Nestle tackles plastic pollution with 50% recycled water bottles. A fact check, did miners discover hellfire on Earth? You can find details on page 13. Commissioner justifies demolition of buildings in Lagos. EU partners Nasarawa government on digital economy and green economy. The big story, Nigeria's carbon credit market receives a boost. Receipt partners CREACC NG. You can find more details on page 3. ICCDI trains 500 Nigerian students on climate justice. Nigerian lawmakers task government on dangers of deforestation in Ekiti State. Enugu community at risk of flooding due to diversion of water channels. There is a nature care column on page 15 that says powerful benefits of kill. At the downside, Eddie Hearn on Saudis changing boxing, working with Warren and insane zombie trailer. You can find more details on page 21, and that's all the news on Nature News.
All right, let's round it up with the Business Day newspaper. Large-scale theft robs Nigerians of electricity. You can find detail of that inside the paper. Weak non-oil export dampen Naira devaluation gains. You can start reading on the front page and continue inside the paper. CBN most governance guidelines for fintech to curb fraud. And also we have pro-wiki lawmakers, dear Fubara, adopt residential quarters as their chamber. Pension for mortgages gain traction as financing hits 15 billion naira. You can find more detail of that story. We have a picture story on the front page. Do well to grab Business Day and read any of the story that is of interest to you. And that's how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you, Rachel, for doing this with me. Thank you to our callers who called during the program. We're really appreciative of your thoughts and also your contribution on the program. Thank you to our supporters and viewers at home for always keeping a date with us. Until we come next week, do have a blessed weekend ahead.